I found an episode of Cops from 1996 in Boston, Massachusetts. Boy, is this a blast from the past. Let's check it out. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer. So, we're going out to Boston, Massachusetts, 1996, for a Cops episode that I found on YouTube. And we're going to take a look at some pretty interesting community-oriented policing by the Boston Police Department. Now, this was a throwback to the old days, and, some good and some bad. So we're going to walk through it. We'll take note of a couple things that probably should have been done a little bit differently, but it's going to remind you of a different sort of way that the police used to interact with the public. So we'll draw your attention to some of the subtle changes that have happened in police uniforms and police communication over the years, and have a little fun with this episode. So let's check it out.
I guess somebody found some items that were stolen the other day, and the victim found it in somebody's backyard. So now they're just requesting the police and hopefully recover it. It's it right here.
Well, I figured that the only people who take it's a picnic table. The only people who a hammock
Did you guys make a report out there?
Yes,
Yeah?
good morning.
Okay. Do you have a copy? Your copy?
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, there's no doubt as to
I told the other officers by way of identification.
Yeah.
First of all, we painted it this color.
This stuff, right?
It's green. That's it.
What items are we talking about?
With this picnic table, these two benches, this chair, here's the hardware to the hammock.
Okay.
We would like the
Are we
hammock.
missing a hammock then, I take it?
Yeah. Green
Okay.
hammock.
Okay. Well, I know the kid who lives here. We know the kid. We're going to go try and find him, and maybe we can try and find your missing hammock. Do you guys want to go to court or anything, or do you just want your stuff back, or what do you want to
We
do?
want our stuff back, and we want these people prosecuted.
Okay, we could do that. Is there anything else missing besides the hammock?
No, that was all they took. They didn't take the gas grill or.
No, they didn't take a brand new propane
Well,
tank.
maybe they were coming back tonight
Well,
to get
actually,
that stuff.
Well, actually, the station could use a propane tank if you guys are
That's what
really
made
generous.
me think that nothing went too far, because
Yes.
the gas grill and the propane tank were just as valuable as anything else.
All right, well, what we're going to do, to be honest with you, I can't make Eric carry it back in all foolishness. Do you have any help, people that could help you out? I don't think the masters, since the people who own the building would mind. We can just make sure if you come back.
Why don't we bring it out and put it out there?
Okay.
And then I'll go
Fix the
get it.
truck.
You want
Okay.
to put it out on the table, on the
On the
street?
sidewalk, and she'll stay, and I'll go around the corner and get the truck.
Suppose we could do that.
Yeah.
Why don't you grab the umbrella? See if you can grab the umbrella.
That's not yours.
Oh, the umbrella's not yours? Okay, that's not too
Maybe
bad.
Jared could have carried.
Yeah.
Maybe next week you can grab the bench.
Swing it down and over. Yeah, there you go. What are we stuck on? Branches?
Branches.
The legs?
Yeah, the leg.
That wasn't bad, huh? We could be professional movers.
You want to move it, Captain?
We want Eric too. We just want to talk to him. Actually, he's not going to be arrested,
Right.
but he's going to have to go to court at a later time to answer to it, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's not the first time either, you know. If he's driving you nuts, you got to get some court supervision help or DYS help.
Near the cellar.
In the cellar? All right, dear. Thank you.
Come on, I got the hammock.
There we go. We got the hammock. Got that. We'll pass the hammock off.
Thank you.
Open the rear too, dear. We'll put the table
Table
in.
in first, and then
You know what I mean? I don't want to put you in the wrong position because it's your son, but you got to think 2 and 2 is not adding up here. So, but these guys, the young ladies, they're gonna leave it here. They're gonna come over and get it piece by piece. Is that cool?
yeah.
Okay. And we're gonna go look for Eric. And like I said, we're not gonna place him under arrest, but we are gonna summons him in to East Boston Court for probably larceny or receiving stolen or something like that. Okay? Sorry. Used to be people would ask though before they borrowed your furniture. Now it's just take, and if you find it, you find it. If you don't, you don't.
First thing I want to just comment on is that I miss a time in American culture where the police knew how to relate to regular people. And as far as everything I've seen up to this point, the only thing I'm offended by are these atrocious hairstyles from 1996. Now, I had my own mullet. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't have a mullet, but this cop's hairdo is atrocious and offensive, and somebody should hold him down and shave it. But this kind of like reminds me that there was a period of time, at least, in some areas of the United States, where the police officer was connected with the community. You notice that as he was talking to these people, I think he said the name, the Madsons, the owners of the building. So he knew who owned the building. He knew who lived there. He knew this family. Now, I would first try to argue, if I was going to try to defend this situation from a criminal defense standpoint, I would first argue that outside of them finding the property in this yard, it's obvious that somebody put it there, but they don't have any real reason to suspect that Eric did it. But you'll note the fact that these people that they were just talking to right before we cut to this commentary section was actually Eric's family. If you look at the teenage young man that was involved and carried the hammock out of the house, he looks very similar to the kid we're getting ready to see, who's going to be identified as Eric. So you've got Eric's family who's sort of participating in this. And then we watch this young man carry this hammock. Remember that the hammock is the link to the theft. So these people notice their own furniture. They're out there trying to find their own stuff. They noticed it in somebody's yard, and they say to the police officer, well, yeah, there's a hammock missing. Well, lo and behold, probably Eric's brother, if I had to guess, says, oh, we know what Eric had this hammock inside the house. He was going to sell it. So his brother ratted him out, gave the stuff over to the police officer. So under these circumstances, we do have reasonable articulable suspicion. For one, you've got a crime that's been reported by somebody who lost their stuff, and you've got the property being found in a place that Eric is known to reside. And then you got Eric's brother bringing out the hammock and corroborating the information that, yes, I know this was put in the house by Eric and he intended to sell it. Okay, so we have reasonable articulable suspicion to perform a Terry detention of Eric when we encounter him. What I was really just sort of taken aback by was these officers doing stuff you would never see police officers doing today. Carrying out furniture, helping people get their stuff back, treating people in the community the way they would want their family or themselves to be treated if they were in the same situation. And I think that's something that's really lost in policing in America today. Note also that these guys are wearing no body armor. They're not tacked up looking like they rolled off a SWAT truck. They're just out like trying to do a community policing job. They actually responded to a female officer asking for assistance on a walk beat. These guys don't have a car to put this stuff in. They're just carrying it by hand and trying to help the community. And I like that. I think that's good policing, and that's what we probably should get back to. But anyway, let's see how they interact with Eric and see what happens, and we'll come back and talk some more about it.
Eric right there, pushing the girl.
Eric. How's the lawn business going? The lawn furniture business? Backyard patio furniture, like a table and
Hammock,
some benches. Remember that?
Remember that?
Okay. Eric, just do me a favor, right? Put your hands on top of your head for me. Top of your head. There you go. Interlocked. Very good, Eric. Very good. What's this about? Eric.
I think you know Eric.
Who's Thelma?
It's my grandma.
It's your grandma. Okay, Eric. Well, somebody found some stuff in your backyard that doesn't belong to you or your parents.
In my backyard?
In your backyard. You know that house you live on in Marion's, Marmon Street?
My parents' house?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom and Dad? Well, put your hands down. There's some stuff that's in the backyard that doesn't belong to them, and it doesn't belong to you, and it belongs to your neighbors that live on the next street over.
In my yard?
Yeah.
In your yard.
Furniture?
Yeah.
No idea how it got there, right, Eric?
No, not furniture.
Oh, you didn't tell your parents you got it? Does that ring a bell now?
Paid $30 for it, supposedly. Oh.
That
furniture.
stuff.
So Eric has the look of somebody who's just been caught in the middle of that bullshit, and he don't know what to say. He's not very good at criming, I'll tell you that right now. but it's very clearly guilty just by his body language. And obviously we have the whole story, right? Eric is the last to find out that he's been, he's had the finger pointed at him by his own brother and his parents for taking this lawn furniture. Now, an interesting sort of, I guess, timeline of events unfolded here as Eric is stopped. In my opinion, it depends on whether or not Eric is under arrest at this point as to whether or not they can go into his pocket. Quite frankly, when I watched this the first time, when I decided this would be a good episode for me to do a video on, I thought, whoa, what's the reasonable articulable suspicion? Because I didn't remember, or I didn't make the connection that these were his parents that were ratting him out and his brother that brought the hammock out. I missed that part. And so I thought initially, well, I don't know, we got to do a little more investigation before we can actually stop Eric. But if Eric is under arrest, which if issuing somebody a summons to come into court is considered an arrest under modern case law, if Eric was under arrest, meaning that they're holding him, they're going to issue him a summons, which they ultimately are going to do here, then it's okay for them to search his pockets. However, if he's only detained and they want to get Eric's side of the story, then under Terry versus Ohio, they actually need some information that would lead an objectively reasonable police officer to believe that Eric was armed and dangerous before they can pat him down. But they didn't even actually pat him down. They went straight into the pocket. They pull out a pill bottle. I mean, very casual, not anything like what you would see today. I mean, this case in Boston in 2025 would probably be a felony traffic stop with guns pointed and a SWAT truck and Ben Affleck and Matt Damon yelling at you in their worst Southie accent as to what's going on and get on the ground and get out of the car and whatever, right? Sorry, Josh Abrams. I love your accent, but I can't do it. The southern twang of Appalachia creeps into my Boston accent. But point is here, it depends. If he's under arrest, which I think in this particular case, he probably is under arrest because they're going to issue him a summons. They already know this is their guy. They're just getting him to confess. So I think the search is probably okay, incident to a lawful arrest because of the summons. However, if he's under arrest, what are they doing right now? They're asking him questions. So they have to pick one. And that's the interesting part of this. Either he's not under arrest and he's only being detained. And in that particular case, he's not being handcuffed or anything like that. So the officers are having a conversation with him. Although clearly, if you're detaining someone under Terry, it's not a consensual encounter. But again, he's not also in custody. So a reasonable person might feel like, hey, in this situation, he's not in custody. Clearly, he's detained and he's not free to leave, but it would be borderline whether he's owed a Miranda warning. But if the search is legal, then that means it's only legal because he's under arrest. And so if he's under arrest, then he's clearly in custody, meaning everything he says in response to the statements they're making about all this, they're not asking him necessarily, Eric, did you do this? But they're saying things to him that would invite an incriminating response. And so this is the layers of, how this stuff works. If he's under arrest, the search is okay. If he's not under arrest, the search is not okay. If he's not under arrest, the questioning is probably okay. But if he is under arrest, then the questioning's not okay. So they either violated the Fourth Amendment by searching his pockets when he wasn't under arrest yet, or they violated the Fifth Amendment by not issuing him a Miranda warning. So one way or the other, we probably have at least a constitutional violation here.
Okay, you know what we're gonna do, Eric? Because Mikey's in such a good mood. I wanted to slap the cuffs on you. I really did. Teach you a lesson, maybe take you up to your neighbors and show everybody how big guy you are with handcuffs. But Mikey said, no, we'll summons him into court. Show him what nice guys we are. How's that sound? Does that sound okay to you, Eric? Huh? Okay. You know the drill, right? Right. Let me tell you, though, don't go back into that guy's yard or those girls' yards, okay? Eric, serious. It's all fun and games, okay? Don't go in their yard. We lugged all the stuff that was in your backyard out to the front sidewalk, and then we had to lug it in a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Serious. It doesn't say laborer over here, does it? Okay. I mean, Mikey hurt his back and everything. He might have to go to a chiropractor.
You're concerned about me too, huh?
Serious though, buddy. You're young, too young to be ended up going to jail.
Again.
Eric, grab your shorts and hi-ho.
Stuff. We'll see you in court.
It's not too surprising that was Eric.
Don't crucify me for what I'm getting ready to say, but if all constitutional rights violations looked like this, we wouldn't have the problems in policing that we have. They were kind to Eric. Eric is a little shithead who's running around stealing people's stuff and is so brazen about it that he's putting it in his yard and be like double middle finger to the person down the street that he stole the hammock from. Like, but I've said multiple times on this channel that if people would apologize or treat people kindly in the process of doing whatever it is they're doing, the world would be a different place. People would have a different feeling about maybe being arrested even. I remember driving the paddy wagon at points during my career as a law enforcement officer, and I always kept a pack of cigarettes and like a prepaid cell phone because I found that you generally had more cooperation from people and generally had more positive interactions with them if you let them smoke a cigarette and you let them call their mama, even though they knew they were going to jail. You don't have to treat people poorly simply because you have a job to do. And so this whole argument about, well, cops are just doing their job, sometimes they are. And sometimes they get way too excited at the notion of flexing their authority in an unreasonable way against people who don't deserve to be treated poorly simply because they might be having the worst day of their lives. In closing, this episode is a great reminder that there was a place in law enforcement not too long ago when the public felt like and saw in their actions that the police were truly just trying to do their jobs and they acted like they were a part of the community. The difference between what you see now and what you saw then is that the police officers that show up now treat everybody like a suspect, whether or not they're a victim, whether or not they're the suspect, whether or not they're having the worst day of their life, whether or not their loved one just died. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is whether or not you respect the shield and kiss the ring and pledge your allegiance to the blue line flag. It's us versus them. And this style of policing is a reminder that there was a time not that long ago when it was just everybody belonged in the us category and it wasn't an us versus them. And I'm sure there are plenty of corruption in Boston police. There's tons of movies made by it, right? The Departed by Martin Scorsese is one of the greatest law enforcement films, in my opinion, that's ever been made. And it focuses on intense police corruption and commingling with mob bosses. I'm sure that stuff was going on. I saw 1996 and I thought, oh man, this is going to be a good one. You see the old like 93, 94 Ford Crown Victoria police interceptor vehicles. And I thought, man, this is going to be bad. And I was actually, surprisingly refreshed at the way these guys handled themselves. So again, not endorsing any constitutional violations, but it's so much easier to accept that people aren't perfect. These are the type of police officers where you say, well, everybody makes mistakes and these guys are human beings and whatever. It's very difficult to do that when you're dealing with the kind of stuff we see today. So anyway, I just thought you guys would enjoy this. I didn't see a ton of really bad stuff. I thought it would be a good opportunity to sort of explain how the timeline can change whether or not there was a violation. And sometimes as a police officer, when you have to sort of pick your own adventure, how this person was under arrest in this particular time frame, that can impact what you did before or after that. And so it's important to understand constitutional intentionality as a law enforcement officer and where that leads you. You need to understand what the implications are, regardless of which direction you go. So anyway, that's all for this one. I hope you guys got something out of it. I'd like to invite you to join the Substack community. I'll leave a link in the description of the video. As always, you can still support the Southern Draw Law channel if you don't want to go to Substack. I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. I've also begun doing paid consultation services for people who are interested in having a professional case evaluation to talk about the merits of their case. And if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email at james@southerndrawlaw.com. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the video. Check out some of the other videos on the channel and leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.